introverted noise. Hurry up, Daddy.
Let's do it.
Rolls out to the right. 5 seconds to go in the first half. Dante fires deep to the left. Moss caught it at the 11, but now he pitches it to Mo Williams. Touchdown! You gotta be kidding me!
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Climb in the Pocket podcast. I am your host, Jason Brown. You can find me on Twitter at BrownJason. And it is a glorious night to be recording because for the first time in what feels like forever, we got the whole crew back, ready to do a show. Promises to be good times. We got some serious topics. We got some not so serious topics. We're going to get to all of them. We're going to try to have a little bit of fun, but I'm just going to jump right to it because I'm so happy to have the whole crew here and I want them to introduce themselves because you might have forgotten some of their names. So we're actually going to switch the order up a little bit here because, you know, through it all, JR has been here. So y'all remember what his voice sounds like. We're going to go in opposite order because we're going to start with the man, the myth, the hardest working man in just, we'll say Minneapolis, working 8 jobs at a time and all that business. Saxy Prince, welcome back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Saxy Prince is back. I know y'all missed me. Been listening to the show. And I know y'all missed me because you ain't got nobody to make fun of the entire time. So you're welcome. I am back. It's good to be back.
Like we still made fun of you a little bit even when you weren't here.
You did, but it's not the same amount of vigor that it is when I'm here. So
okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So, no, it's good to be back. I miss y'all. To be talking about sports and everything that's going on, and kind of reintroducing myself back into social media. I've been kind of away for a little bit, but no, I've still been keeping track of it, talking to y'all and interacting on the timeline. But yeah, man, it was a little bit of a break because I was doing a lot of intensive acting training. So
okay,
but now I get a few weeks break. So
well, good stuff. Good to see you working on your craft and all that stuff. Still, you feel like you need to make that move on down to the ATL so we can see you in something here before too long.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of stuff going down. I'm trying to get done. Yeah, exactly. Or Black Panther 2.
Yeah, there we go. Mm-hmm. Let them know it's your heritage, man. Go down there dressed like you did for opening night. Get yourself in that next one.
Right?
Shave your head bald. They'll find a role.
Yeah, just do it. And there he is. You heard the voice. Myles, my man. We had you in. We didn't have you, but you're back again. And hopefully now, for good going forward.
I'm back.
How you doing, man? How's it going?
I'm back, man. Things are good. We're moving into we bought a house. We close tomorrow. So once we're officially in, I'll be in like Flynn, man. We'll be good.
Yes, sir. Myles gonna pay for that top end internet. We excited.
Yeah, and my wife's already mad about the price, but I said, it is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do, man. When's the party? 4th of July.
Okay, all right. Let me go look at some tickets here, and then of course, you all know him. You know him well. He's our QB1. Hardest working man on Draft Twitter. Man who just figured out how to do some video editing, dropping all kinds of good stuff for you on the timeline. JR, what's going on, my man?
What's going on, man? I'm really excited about figuring out how to do these audio videos over these highlight films, man. Also, y'all will be proud of me, man. I'm 2 shows away from finishing Game of Thrones.
Woo!
Yo, look how quick you went through that show.
That boy been doing work.
I'm mad that I went through it so fast.
You gonna do it again, aren't you?
You'll do it again at some point.
No. I'm about to cancel Amazon Prime as soon as I finish it.
Oh man, if we weren't recording right now, I was gonna say something, but we recording, and I don't feel having to edit all that stuff out. So it's a family podcast. So we're just gonna jump in, and I got a rhetorical question tonight, so I don't really need an answer, but I'm gonna ask the question anyway. Why all y'all folks who don't like Teddy Bridgewater keep tweeting Teddy Bridgewater? Like, why y'all so mad? He doesn't play for the team anymore. We got Kirk Cousins. who all y'all say is a better quarterback. Why can't we just be happy with the quarterback we have?
It's
Why
the
folks still
ex-boyfriend and
tweet that
girlfriend
Teddy
syndrome,
Bridgewater?
man.
I mean, it's rhetorical, but Prince, you've been gone for a little while, so I feel like I want to let you to say a little bit, but not too much because we got a lot of other stuff that we need to get to.
I ain't got much to say. I mean, it's the ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other syndrome. You always want what you can't have, and Teddy hasn't, quote unquote, given that apology that fans so desperately feel like they need. I think he gave an not apology, but just like a thank you for supporting me type thing. So yeah, folks are still in their feelings about that. So that's why they keep talking about it.
It's time to let that pain go. Let it go, people. He doesn't work here anymore. And they let him go. He wanted to come back. Just move on, please. Please. Anyway, let's not get too sidetracked on that. Just saw some stuff today, and folks just in their feelings a little bit too much. Just let it go. Be happy. You got Kirk Cousins. I mean, you're supposed to be happy about that. Why are you still thinking about Teddy Bridgewater? Anyway.
Yeah, we got Kirk Cousins. Why would we think about Teddy? Yeah.
Indeed. Stop thinking about Teddy. All right. Well, we had some serious stuff we want to talk about. And we talked about it a lot last week. There were rumors last week. Well, those rumors have come to reality. In terms of Jameis Winston getting suspended officially now, NFL put out a statement. But then shortly after that, Jameis and his people, somebody put out a statement on behalf of Jameis Winston. That was among the worst statements I've ever heard when an athlete gets caught up in a situation of this sort, because from where I was at, it read like an admission of guilt. Like, basically, he was saying that I did that. The NFL kind of put out that they found the woman to be credible and thought that Jameis Winston did, in fact, grope that woman. With all those facts, how they only give that dude 3 games? Like, I really am not understanding that one at all. And, JR, I know obviously you had some thoughts on this, but I guess, you gave us a recap. You gave us kind of a high level overview of what you were thinking about things last week. But, now that everything is official and now that you've read Jameis's statement, like, where are you at with this whole thing? And I guess, what are your thoughts on the situation, I guess, Jameis, and really what the Bucs have to do as they move forward with everything?
Yeah, so I'm going to try to keep this as G-rated as possible because this is a family show. But being that I am a Florida State fan who was once a big-time famous Jameis Winston fan coming into the league, I thought he was it. I thought he was going to be that franchise quarterback that the Buccaneers were solely searching for since they haven't had one in years. But we all know the crab leg situation that happened with him. There was some other stuff that happened off the field with him at Florida State as well. We don't know if that stuff ended up being true or not. But the crab leg stuff was true. There was video evidence of that. But a lot of people value talent over character. And that's what he was coming into the NFL. A lot of people were saying that he was better than Marcus Mariota from a talent standpoint. And that blinded them from talking about his character and not factoring that into the equation when he did end up going number 1 overall. But I'm done supporting Jameis Winston. I'm not in his corner anymore. I can't support him anymore after this. It is what it is. I mean, he has all the talent in the world. I don't think any other quarterback the last 3 games of the year played better than him down the back stretch. He showed phenomenal stuff on the field. I think for a quarterback that's played the first 3 years or first 4 years or whatever year he is on entering, I think he's had the most yards and touchdowns other than Andrew Luck and somebody else. I can't remember. I heard the stat on NFL Network earlier when they were talking about the situation. So he's been a roller coaster ride on the field, but his flashes have been very high, but his off the field stuff has just been a roller coaster. And I just can't support the guy anymore. And at this point, if I'm the Tampa Bay Bucs, I would move on, honestly, just because you cannot count on him. If he does end up playing well this year, how can you sit there and say you can trust this guy for the long haul? And do you want that type of face on the front of your franchise? Do you want Jameis Winston in his past and you don't know what's going to happen in the future? Do you want that as your franchise player, as the brand of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? And that's just something I'm not willing to do. So I'm done with supporting Jameis Winston.
Wow. And so I know, last week when we talked about this a little bit and we talked about, potentially not re-signing him. I mean, you felt pretty confident at that point that, first round pedigree, first overall pick pedigree, that, he'd get signed, picked up pretty easily. I guess given where we're at now with the admissions that have come out, I guess, do you still feel the same way? Like someone would still take a chance on him, or do you feel like maybe he's radioactive just based on, everything that, has come out and what appears to be him admitting to, doing this, you really can't say anything but this foul stuff to this Uber driver.
Yeah, I mean, Keyshawn Johnson, he hit the nail on the head. I'm not sure if you guys seen his comments through the media, but he had an interview earlier yesterday, I believe it was, where he was saying he just doesn't think Jameis is always there in the head. And I completely agree with that. We've all seen the Eat the W fiasco. He just tries too hard to be a leader, and that he's a leader, but from an on-the-field standpoint, he has a charismatic effect and a magnetic effect about him on the field. There's no doubt about that. He's a guy that can rally the troops and be that leader, but I just think he tries too hard to be that guy when he has the type of playing style that can already speak volumes and be that leader for itself. He just doesn't have to be that outspoken guy like he tries to be. And this goes all the way back to his days at Florida State. We saw how Jimbo Fisher had to tame him on the sideline and threaten to bench him weekly just to calm him down. And that's carried over to Dirk Cutter. We saw it on Hard Knocks to where he was just hard to deal with every single day. And if it's that hard to deal with your starting quarterback, I just don't think it's worth it. They've put trust in him, making him the number 1 overall pick and been in his corner since this entire fiasco that's going on with him. And I just don't see how they can continue to be in his corner and trust him for here on out. There's just something you can't do. And personally, if I'm them, I've said it, I will move on. And that's just me. You can't trust the guy.
Okay. That's pretty strong right there, I guess. Myles, Yinka, that order, I guess, do you guys have anything to add to that, or are you pretty much kind of riding with what JR had to say on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, he's done a few things at this point, and this last one's just unacceptable. And yeah, man, you can't get behind that. Like, there's no excuse for it. There's nothing. So I obviously know that he'll get another chance in the NFL, whether it's, whether the Bucs continue to keep moving forward with him or not. I know he'll get another opportunity. That's just the way the NFL works. The NFL doesn't care. If they did, they would have given him a proper 6-game suspension the way they're supposed to. So yeah, the NFL really doesn't care. They're just doing this for formality purposes. Yeah, so I'm with JR 100%. I'm done with him. The Tampa Bay Bucs in general, I think they're going downhill. Jameis is literally about to get Dirk Cutter to lose his job and stuff like that. Like, that whole front office is about to be fired because of Jameis. So yeah, it's a tough situation, but yeah, I'm not on his side at all.
Okay. Prince, anything to add, or are we moving on?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is this is kind of an indictment on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they did their research as far as Jameis Winston. They kind of knew this was the kind of guy that they were investing in, and it kind of seemed like they were okay with him with all these antics and all these question marks around them. So, I mean, I'm with you guys where I've kind of been done with Jameis Winston for a while, but it just seems like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were okay with this is the guy we're going to draft, and this is the guy that we are going to need to be okay with being the way that he is. And I think they have to draw a line in the sand, and this probably has to be it. So I'm not saying they're going to release him or anything like that, but they shouldn't be surprised that this kind of stuff that happens. So
okay. Yeah, and that whole this is the most researched prospect in the history of the draft and all that stuff. They might have researched him, but it doesn't look like they did a very good job because the same type of issues continue to follow him around. And like Jared said, just, not to say he's not all there. He just, he does not seem to have the ability to exhibit good judgments off the field. And, it's kind of shaky on the field every now and again, too. So
you got to stop hanging out with Ronald Darby.
And that other dude who got locked up that he was kicking it. Like, what you doing, man? Like, anyway, okay, let's move it along. I think we're all on the same page in terms of what's going on with Jameis Winston. You hope he figures it out, but can't really root for the dude until he turns it around because this is ridiculous and there's way too much smoke around him at this point for there not probably to be some fire. And so we'll leave it at that and move on. And there's really no way to make a good segue here. We're gonna try to move from the serious not really fun to talk about, but probably something that needs to be spoken about more often topic, to, your kind of run-of-the-mill football news, but good news for us as Vikings fans. And, the man, Danielle Hunter, got himself some monies. 5-year, $72 million extension, $40 million guaranteed with a $14 million signing bonus. I mean, those are big numbers for, us regular folk. I mean, any one of us would be happy with, just 1 year of that. But that feels a bit like stealing by the Vikings. Prince, you actually put out, a quick piece when this was announced. I guess as you're reading these numbers, thinking about Danielle Hunter, what he's shown, career to date, his age, athleticism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on this deal?
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at this deal in two ways. I mean, I think the most obvious thing, like you mentioned, this is a very team-friendly deal. If you're looking at Danielle Hunter, what he could have probably received, upwards of 17, 18 million is probably where you could have started negotiations and settled in on a number around there. He settled in for roughly about $14.4 million. And it's highway robbery. There's no other way to put it as far as that. But I'm also looking at things from Danielle Hunter's perspective. Understand that this dude was a third-round pick, super raw, has really only, to date, really probably made about, $2.5 million or something. So I think something that was really, really important to him was cashing in early, getting that huge signing bonus, and his life is now set for the rest of his life. Getting that $15 million. I know, he could have gotten more, but understand he's still getting that $15 million as a signing bonus. Not even to mention what he's going to get paid throughout the season. So I think that was something that was really important to him as the player. And then I think the second thing that I'm really noticing as well too is we keep looking at, how is Brzezinski and Spielman able to do this time and time again? But I think this kind of speaks to something that they were trying to get at when they started, this endeavor a couple of years ago, where it was they want players to understand they're going to get taken care of here. But more importantly, I just think guys like Danielle Hunter, Everson Griffin, Harrison Smith, Adam Thielen, all these guys that are getting locked up for fairly cheap have bought into the culture where it's just I like playing in Minnesota. I have a great defensive line coach in Andre Patterson. I love the guys in the locker room. I know if I go elsewhere, I could get paid, but then, then I'm not living up to my full potential. And clearly Andre Patterson has unlocked Danielle Hunter's full potential. So I guess I'm looking at it from the side of him, in which, he didn't get as much money as he could have, but I think there's a lot of things that factored into his decisions besides just trying to make the most amount of money from the Vikings. And that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, and I think that's also a hidden benefit of drafting well, is that when you your early round picks, I mean, you got to pay them a bunch of money regardless. Barr, up and down player, but I mean, he's on the hook for a fairly substantial amount of money this year. Kendrick, second round pick, you're coming in, he's getting, a decent, chunk of change. But when you get those later round guys, like you said, I mean, they've been playing in the league for quite some time. They understand the dangers of the sport that they're playing, and they really haven't seen that money yet, that level of money yet. And it's their first opportunity to get some long-term security for themselves and their families. So I always, kind of take the circumstances where they were drafted and all those things into account when you think of that first deal, because like you said, it is that first opportunity for them to set themselves up, set their family up. But man, it doesn't really it seems like it's way less than a Danielle Hunter should have commanded. I guess, JR, I'll go with you, and then we'll wrap it with Myles here before we move on to the next topic. I guess, what are your thoughts when you look at this? Just, a quick, I guess, what was your initial reaction when you saw the numbers first come out for this deal?
Yeah, I was happy that it happened, and I don't know about y'all, but it's pretty funny seeing how random these extensions really happen. No one really knows when they're actually going to go down or when they do end up agreeing to terms or how close they are. So it was a pleasant surprise to see that notification on my phone, and credit to the Vikings for keeping their business very tight-knit and close to the chest, and getting that done. But the $14.4 million average number was very low to me. I wasn't expecting it to be that low. I thought it would be at least in the $15 or $16 million a year range. And that's just a credit to the culture that the Vikings have created. And what they have established is that players understand that they're going to be taken care of if they do ball out. and the team is going to extend him a year early. And that's something that Rick Spielman and Rob Brzezinski have basically created an identity of doing, is getting these guys done a year in advance and not letting these things drag out to where we see a situation that's going on now with Aaron Donald and OBJ. So they've created and established a really good culture with these guys and getting them done early and creating some cap flexibility as well.
All right. Myles, bring us home, man.
Yeah, I agree with all the points. I think I was surprised. I thought Danielle was going to get a little bit more money, like overall per year. But I think, what the Vikings have shown to do is they're going to give those players all their money. Well, not all of it, but they're going to give their players the majority of the money up front right away. Like in Danielle's case, he's getting $40 million guaranteed, and I think $48 million over the first 3 years of the 5-year contract. So like he's getting most of that, and that's so in the first 3 years is $16 million per. So like I think for the most part it's basically a 3-year contract. It seems like those 2 years added on are kind of team friendly deals at that point. So I think the way they structure things is it's phenomenal. They know exactly how they want to do that and how it appeases the players to get the money up front, but at the same time they give themselves flexibility down the road. So yeah, I think it's great for both sides. I think like everybody said, I think Danielle would have gotten a lot more money on the open market, but that's most guys. Most guys would get more money on the open market, but I think most guys don't want to test that. They don't want to risk anything. That long-term security is really important to some of these guys. I mean, you never know what could happen tomorrow, what could happen next week. I mean, so some of these guys, they want to make sure that they have that long-term security for themselves, and they have that. And I'm sure that's exactly why a guy like Anthony Barr, who, took out that, took out his insurance policy during mini camps, because he wanted to make sure if anything happened that he's still going to be taken care of. So these guys, they care about that stuff. They want to make sure that they're good. So even if it is a few $1 million less than they might have gotten from another team, they know what their future looks like. They know it's a lot of money. They know the team that they're built around. They know what's going on. They know what the team is trying to do. Danielle Hunter knows the team's trying to win. He knows, I don't know if that factored in anything, but he knows some of the, even just $1 million or $2 million less is going to help give that money to somebody else to help this team continue to win. So I think some of those things are important to guys like to him or Eric Kendricks, or Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, Linval Joseph, Everson Griffin, all the guys that have been extended recently. I think some of that stuff matters to them. They're still getting paid, but I think they're like, well, I'll give up a couple million here or there just to make sure that, we keep this team intact, because they are such a tight-knit group. So I think on that aspect, I think on both sides, everybody's done such a great job with it. So it's really exciting. You just hope, they can finish up what they're trying to do.
Yeah, let me chime in for one last point. The other thing to think about, JR kind of posts this on Twitter quite often, but Danielle Hunter being 23 is kind of a huge asset for both the Vikings and himself. Because, I mean, normally a lot of these pass rushers are coming into the league, they are 22, 23 years old. By the time they're getting off that first contract, they are, in that 27, 28 year range where, that's when they're signing those massive deals because of, being elite pass rushers and stuff. But someone like Danielle Hunter, understand if this is essentially like a 3-year deal, maybe in a 4-year deal, and he chooses to re-up, that's when he could probably make that massive contract down the road and whatnot. So like I said, the mentality there was, I'll take a little bit less now, secure my in my foreseeable future, and then down the road, that's when I can kind of make that massive amount of money that everyone's saying I should make right now. So, that's just something that I'm sure that he was thinking about, as well as the Vikings.
All right. Well, we're going to go through these next couple of segments kind of quick here. It's something that, we've talked about. I feel like we've talked about it a couple of times in different forms, iterations. But, Myles, we got Hunter out of the way. We got Kendricks out of the way. And I think if I go back to whatever podcast we initially talked in this, I feel like we're going in the exact opposite order of what we initially
we're way off.
what we initially laid out in terms of importance anyway. So with all that said and how wrong we've been to date, who gets done next? Is it Stephon Diggs and of course Adam Thielen or Anthony Barr?
to me, it's got to be Diggs, and I'm really been wrapping my head around this as of late,
And Thielen.
especially. Yeah, and well, of course, you can't extend Diggs without taking care of Thielen. Like it's not possible. You have to. What about Adam Thielen? So,
Yeah.
no,
Family show.
yeah, but for real, it's Diggs. Like it's got to be. Like you have arguably the best wide receiver duo in the league. A guy in Stephon Diggs, who is he still only 24. He's still super young. So you want to make sure that you have those two guys locked up long term. I mean, so I think Diggs is the next important key. I think, and what I wanted to touch on with Anthony Barr is I think this is where I think the team might potentially wait to extend him because they want to figure out if they feel like they can move on from him or not. Is the idea of moving him down to D end and letting him rush the passer a little bit more this season? It sounds like that they're going to try some of that. And to me, it really seems like that could be because Anthony Barr has been kind of pushing for that. Because the team, as of up to date, like they haven't done that. They haven't looked to do that. They've let him do the double A gap blitzes and stuff like that, and he'll come off the edge every once in a while, and he'll blitz and all that. But they haven't really let him consistently rush the passer. And we know him coming out of college was his, it's a big skill set of his. So I feel like personally, that's what Anthony Barr has been pushing for this offseason is trying to get himself that opportunity because he sees where all the money comes from for guys that can get to the quarterback. And that's a big skill set of his. So for me, I think if the team really does not see that as a value from Anthony Barr, where they don't really need that from him in terms of an every down or at least a consistent down D end, stand up, walk up third defensive end on the defensive line of scrimmage, I don't know if I feel like he's as important as everybody thinks he might be if they're not going to use him that way. Because his skill set, like he really is that primary like pass rusher type guy. Like he'd fit perfectly in a 3-4 defense, stand up outside linebacker. That's what he's built for. I think that's what his like skill set is. But Mike Zimmer's converted him into a really good 4-3 outside linebacker, off ball linebacker. And like I said, he's done really well with it, but I think if the team wants to keep doing that with him and letting him be that off-ball linebacker, and he's super athletic, so he can do a lot of different things, but he still struggles in pass coverage and getting out in space at times. He struggles with some of the tight ends and running backs just because, the way the movements are and the way he's got to, move. He's a big guy. He's 6'5", 255 or whatever he weighs. Like, it's hard for him to move like that sometimes. And because he's not built that way exactly. So, for me, if they really don't believe that they need him to rush the passer the way they're going to attempt to try this year, I would play it out and see how that goes. And if it doesn't go all that well, I truly believe if they're just looking for a straight strong side outside linebacker in a 4-3 defense, I truly believe he's a replaceable asset just because of that. But if they find that they can convert him into more of like a stand-up outside linebacker who can rush the passer and that can work in this defense, which we haven't seen them really do. If they can find that to work, then I'm all for it. I want to keep him. I want him to stay, get the money that he deserves, all that. But if it's not something they feel really needs to be done, I think they could find somebody to be a stand-up, a 4-3 outside linebacker, off-ball linebacker who can do all the things that, like a Vontaze Burfict or whatever did in Cincinnati for Mike Zimmer. So I think that's a big caveat there is it all depends on how this season goes with him rushing the passer, in my opinion.
And you know what I really like about that right there is that Myles, understanding that Yinka was back on the pod, preemptively made all the points to stop Yinka from jumping in and stealing any of the points that Myles could have made before Myles could make them. So Myles just made all the points there. So Yinka, Barr, defensive end,
bad.
you got anything else to add, or are you good with Myles? Because he got out in front of it a little bit there, and I ain't mad at him for it.
No, I don't have much to add. Myles kind of hit the head on everything. Barr. I think Diggs should be priority. He's the one that should be extended. Won't be surprised if he potentially gets franchise tagged. I think the Vikings are due for a player to be franchise tagged, but I agree with Myles.
Wow. That might be a pod first right there. Just a Yinka coming through with the, yep. Yeah, I agree
My
with Myles.
man.
Yeah, well done. Excellent work, Myles. Good to have everyone back here, building that chemistry back up. Excellent work, gentlemen. We're going to roll along here to a topic that, you know, you'll be surprised who brought this one to the pod, actually. We're going to talk a bit about analytics, but this time it's not me. I didn't put this on the show sheet. I didn't bring it up. It's actually Mr. Film himself, QB1, who brought this one to us here. Josh Norris did a podcast that kind of recapped a conversation that he had with the Vikings Director of Analytics, Scott Kuhn. And so I guess, JR, you brought the pod to our attention. I will let you set the stage and kind of drive this part of the conversation wherever you want it to go.
Yeah, so this was a very interesting pod. One of my good friends, Josh Norris over at Roto World, who does some really good work there, some draft work. Fellow North Carolina guy, represent from North Carolina. But anyway, just what he talked about was he went to an analytics conference in Minnesota. I don't know the exact name of the conference that he went to, but he did talk about that and how this was his first experience at that conference and that he had heard great things about it. So this was his first trip there. And just basically to sum it up, he had a conversation with the Vikings Director of Analytics, Scott Kuhn, like Jason alluded to earlier. And it was all central or based around what is called composite scores or athletic testing. So a lot of people have heard of SPART and RAS. Those are really the two most famous or most notable types of composite scores. And he was saying that the Vikings took these and they created their own type of system with it. And the person that he used was Adam Thielen, and that this is how they actually found Adam Thielen was by these composite scores because he wasn't listed in their senior database. And what they use is Blesto and what's called, I forgot the other one, National. That's the other name of the other database that they use. And what goes into these databases is every school in the country that has prospects with NFL potential. And Adam Thielen wasn't in this database, but they somehow were able to get measurements on him from a pro day or a tryout that he came to with the Vikings. And what he was saying that everything is based on percentiles, and they try to stay away from guys that are in the 5th percentile, which is the lower percentile. So the lower the number, the worse the score or the worse that they perform at this typical pro day that they do have. And Adam Thielen was in that 5% percentile. And coincidentally, they ended up inviting him back for training camp. They ended up cutting him and stashing him on the practice squad, which was something that they tried to stay away from because he was in that 5% percentile. So what he was saying was that Adam Thielen was an extreme outlier, but he tied this into the Vikings draft class this year as well and was saying that 4 of the 8 draft picks that they had this year were in the upper percentile. So the guys he named were Mike Hughes, who was in the 72 percentile of athletic testing. Brian O'Neill was in the 84th percentile. Tyler Conklin was in the 72 percentile, and Ade Aruna was in the 87th percentile. And they even carried this over with undrafted free agents as well. Mike Boone was a guy that tested very well at the combine, and he was in the 93rd percentile. So all these percentiles are really tied into what they try to do with these scores. And what I found really unique was that a lot of fans think coaches don't really pay attention to these analytics, and film guys don't really pay attention to these analytics, and they really do. And he was saying that they bought these scores to the coaching staff, and these coaches aren't really caught in X's and O's as fans think as much as they are. And he was saying that they showed all of these results to the position coaches and that they love seeing this data, especially these small school guys. And he was just saying how fired up these coaches were to go watch film of the guys that were at the top of the percentile list. And Mike Boone was actually one of the guys that he did mention, and that how they wanted to go back and watch his film because his testing numbers were so great. So that was one of the points that he hit on. Another one where he was talking about was that the involvement with age and potential, prospect potential. And that's something that we talk about frequently on this podcast as well. And no one really doesn't know or have a good feel for how teams factor age into these prospects. Danielle Hunter was a great example that he used, and how that the Vikings factored in his age and how they value potential or traits over numbers or production. And that's exactly what they did with Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter, I believe, only had 4.5 sacks in his career at LSU, but he was being drafted at 20 years old, and his traits were outstanding. He really tested in the upper percentiles at the combine. So edge rusher was really where they like to take these risks. And maybe that prospect isn't better than maybe a guy that went in the first or second round at that present time, but they felt like their upside was much better. And now we're seeing that with Danielle Hunter, and another guy that he named was Adair Aruna, where he tested in the upper percentiles. Now he's an older guy, but they feel like down the road they can develop him and mold him to be that type of upper echelon guy that they can get for cheap, that ends up being a high potential or a high ceiling guy down the road. So I don't want to get too far, too deep into this. Jason put the podcast in the show notes, so just go check that out. And that's just a basic summary of what Josh Norris was saying.
Yeah, and it really was a fun podcast. And you know, one of the things that Josh did set up as he was going through it, and Josh does really, really great work over at Roto World, is that he was asking questions, trying to really get that peek behind the curtain, but he also did understand that, you know, the team doesn't want to kind of share the secret recipe with, you know, just everyone on the outside. And so he felt that there were some certain places where, you know, he was asking questions and maybe not getting a full answer or an explanation like he might have liked there. And that the Adam Thielen comment was one that was interesting to me, where he was talking about Adam Thielen being an outlier. And I'm choosing to kind of interpret that as saying finding him the way that they did was an outlier, because when you look at his kind of overall analytic profile in terms of, you know, the production that he had when he was in college, his athleticism, et cetera, like Adam Thielen looked like a great prospect. But I guess really it's the work that went into getting him, finding him how they did, with him not really being in the database anywhere like that, is what I guess would be my understanding of what made him an outlier there. But it was also fun to hear him talk about some concepts that you already kind of, you know, you see people on Twitter talking about on a fairly regular basis, like the importance, like you said, of breakout age, but really how he talked about it and how he framed it in terms of, you know, it's far more impressive for that, you know, 20-year-old player to, you know, have a great performance against other college players, versus, you know, the 23-year-old who does the very same thing because of the development and all those things. And it makes sense. But just the fact that they were, you know, they're really spelling it out, letting you know why they think that's important, because, you know, that's one of those things that when you look at the numbers that, you know, I guess people outside of the NFL looked at the numbers, they were able to see those same things too. So it's a fun pod. It's a quick one. It's a 15-minute solo pod by Josh Norris, but it really was cool to see that, you know, the Vikings are one of the teams that are most heavily invested in analytics. B, crazy that one of the teams that's most heavily in analytics, only has 2 full-time staff beyond Scott Kuhn. But see, one of the things that I also pulled out of that is that, you know, with as much grief as my man, you know, Chip Kelly got for his time in the NFL, there were a lot of concepts and a lot of things that, you know, they talked about in terms of, you know, how they use GPS data and things like that, that all were very much, you know, ideas or ideals or things that, you know, really Chip Kelly brought with him when he came into the NFL, using the GPS data to really track players in practice to see how they were doing. They had a really cool anecdote about Terrence Newman and how they were able to see where he was hitting the wall in the season, not based on what was happening on the field, but how he was moving around in practice. And so I thought that was really cool too, like the GPS data and all the stuff they're going to be able to do with that, but really how they're tracking it in practice to keep players from getting injured, see how injuries actually affect guys when they come back, you know, monitoring the veterans as you move through the season. We're really monitoring all the guys as you move through the season to make sure that we're not, you know, they're not being overworked. And it was really fun. You know, there's just a whole nother, I guess, level of analytics that we'll probably never get to see, that, you know, will be a lot of fun for people to mess around with when and if we're able to get access to that GPS stuff. So it was a fun pod. I guess, you know, we've kind of gone on. I think you can hear how excited we were, excited all of us were.
That Terrence Newman thing was really cool, though.
Yeah, hop in, Myles.
Yeah, that Terrence Newman point was really cool. I thought, like, because you could see it, like, now that you know, Josh kind of gave us that info about them talking about Terrence Newman coming down the stretch and how in practice they could see him, like, basically you could see that the wall being hit, and where most people don't know if, you know, age is really factored into some of it, but like that's to me where I think, in all honesty, I think Mike Hughes, for them picking a guy like Mike Hughes in the first round was a big move for them, because they know that a guy like Terrence Newman can't play that many snaps that early in the season, because if they do need him down the road, him playing that much, all of his effectiveness is just going to be gone by 3/4 of the season. You need him, in January and late December, January, and hopefully in February. So, yeah, I thought that was a really cool thing that I don't think most people really thought about.
Well, all right. We all just went like full on like fanboy about an analytics podcast. That makes me kind of happy. I'm not gonna lie. Went all in there talking about like, nerd stuff.
And you didn't even talk about the Kirk Cousins thing, but I'll let it go.
Hey, we'll let that go. We'll let that go. We'll let that go. Well, yeah. No need to go down there. We just got Yinka back. We don't want him running away for another couple of weeks. So,
hey man, I'm minding my black ass business right now. So,
well, actually,
all right. Well, David, you're welcome. We put this towards the end of the podcast here. We got everyone back. We got everyone here. JR, you are our resident LeBron James fan. I know Paul George opted out. I know Kawhi is trying to get everyone over to the Lakers and the deals and moves that we thought would be impossible. It looks like Paul George went and got himself some cornrows as well, trying to start it up. I'm not sure if LeBron's going to be able to join in on that trend, though. They have to figure something out with that. But JR, my man, what's going on with the decision? I guess part 4. Is it the decision 4? Is that where we're at now?
Yeah. So LeBron has until midnight today or midnight tonight to opt in or opt out of his contract. I believe it's around $35.5 million if he does opt in to that number. But if he does opt out, he's officially a free agent, and anybody can try to acquire his services. There's
Minnesota.
Imagine being that rich where opting out of $35.5 million isn't a big deal.
Right. I mean, that's what happens when you're the best player in the world and everybody's waiting on you to decide what you're going to do to run free agency. But anyway, I expect him to opt out of the deal, and we'll see what happens. I think free agency is probably going to be at a standstill for the first few days until LeBron decides what he wants to do. Or if this deal between the Lakers and the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard speeds up or expedites the process. But we all know in sports, deadlines speed up everything. And I think this deal is eventually going to get done, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Man, that's going to be crazy. I guess, Myles, your thoughts. So if the Lakers do swing the impossible and end up with the team with LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George, do they have what it takes to take out Golden State?
No, and the only reason is like, who are the shooters? Like, I know Paul George can shoot a little bit, but you need to be able to run and shoot the way Golden State can. And if
with the way those guys can defend, though, isn't there a possibility they might not need to shoot as many threes?
Kawhi can defend.
I mean, Paul George can defend pretty well too, no?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Okay.
But who's he defending though? Out of Golden State, like Kawhi's obviously taking KD. Who's defending
Klay.
Curry?
So he's gonna take Clay.
So he's got to take Clay. Draymond's on LeBron. Like I think that's a good thing for Golden State.
We'll see. They're just gonna have to get a bunch of veteran fillers.
Yeah, I mean,
there's plenty out
LeBron's
there.
situation is literally ever since he moved to Miami, like the rest of his career since Miami has just been like a few All-Stars and then literally just filler with trash bench players that if they can play well enough and do well enough, great. But like that's literally been the last half of his career is just fillers of veteran players that are like, oh, I'd love to play with the best player in the world, so I'll take $1 million to do it. While he's got two other superstars with him, so
there's plenty out there that they can't fill. Jamal Crawford's one. Bellinelli is another.
No doubt.
So so we'll see. It's gonna be interesting.
It definitely will. Definitely will. I'm interested. Man, I feel like some of these dudes need to come to the East, man. Please.
Why would LeBron should not leave the East? But
LeBron should never leave the East. Go deal with all that nonsense out there. But go out there and learn from Magic so we can have movie theaters and like Burger Kings and stuff.
Space Jam 2, baby.
Space Jam 2.
Do you think Boston really is going to make that move for Kawhi though, just to not let the Lakers do it?
No. because he won't sign an extension.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would depend on what they gave up.
It have to be a lot.
Because just like last year, we were like, no way Paul George was staying in Oklahoma City, and I mean, he still might leave, but at least now it looks like a harder decision for him.
I mean, if he can make $49 million more, they can offer you $49 million more. That'd be a tough decision.
Unless you're LeBron, then you don't care. So
it's like, nah, I made that off the court this morning, so he all right. We good.
I'm excited to see how the dominoes fall though, because it's gonna be fun. Just because Lakers obviously sound like they're making a hard push for Kawhi. I'm sure that they're gonna make a hard push for Paul George, and so it'll be fun. And then seeing how the rest of the teams just do what they have to do to stack up, because Golden State's pretty much set. We know what Golden State's gonna be. Boston, we basically know what they're gonna be unless they do make a move for Kawhi somehow. So some of the top teams, and Philly probably is pretty close to what they're going to be. Yeah. So some of the top teams and what their overall core roster is going to be. But
Golden State got to rebuild their bench.
Yeah, but I mean they got Andre Iguodala coming back. They got some of those other guys. So they're not reinventing the wheel. So it'll be fun.
The one story that I saw, not story, but I guess it was a story. People turned it into a story. I guess Stephen A. Smith said that LeBron texted KD about going to Los Angeles. And honestly, just for the takes, I feel like that would be hilarious.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, how much fun would that be if KD decided to go join up with LeBron? Like, folks would be so mad.
Yeah, the stands would backpedal so hard.
Oh, so hard. So hard. And I would say right now, I don't think that there's a group of people in the world more concerned about how this is all going to go than the Kobe fans. Because,
no doubt.
Yeah. If LeBron goes there, I feel like they're worried Kobe might be forgotten or something.
Quickly.
I think the one other take that I had to add to this is, I mean, I guess you have to say, like, this kind of speaks to LeBron's greatness, right? Like, the NBA, like, a lot of the stars in the NBA literally will not move until they know what's happening with LeBron. I mean, that should kind of let you know, like, I don't know, the sheer stardom and just, like, impact he has had in this league. I mean, I know, like, the NBA is obviously different from the NFL because you don't necessarily have players just waiting for this player to move here and this and there and stuff, but LeBron is literally putting the NBA at a standstill. Like, people won't move until they know, can I go and play with LeBron, or can I go build another super team that can compete with LeBron? So, I mean, it's crazy.
Speaking of greatness, since we got we got everybody back on the pod, how's your basketball practice going? You getting in there and putting up shots multiple times a day, preparing for your eventual meeting with Myles Gorham on the court?
Yeah, no. I should tell you guys. What day was it?
Who dunked on you?
No, I didn't know. I don't get dunked on. If I'm playing against a guy, who can dunk on me, it's just I'm just staying very, very far away from the basket. But anyways, so Kuhn was going down there to do a workout and stuff, and I went down and I saw it and I was like, hey, do you want to play? So I don't know if you guys know. I've never said it on the pod before, but my younger brother was a Division I athlete, right? I was humbled very, very fast in this game of basketball. And, we played our first game. I was up for a little bit. Some of my shots were draining, but then, he quickly turned it around. He ended up beating me to like 15-11 or something like that. Next game, all my shots were hitting, and I ended up beating him 16 to 13 or something like that. So, I was feeling good. I'm like, all right, we got it. Last game, tiebreaker.
10 and Kuhn was 6.
Tiebreaker, playing to 7, whatever the case is. I had like 3 shots in. It was like 4-0. And then Kuhn just kind of gave me that look, and he started talking trash and stuff. And I'm like, shit, I know what's going to happen. So as soon as he got the ball back because of a missed shot, like it was just a done deal. So I felt like that was my humbling experience. So if I can hang with Kuhn, I should have a shot against Myles Gorham. So I'm ready for you, Myles.
Just make sure y'all record it. We need this for YouTube.
We'll try to get someone.
Oh, that'd be
We're gonna pull
ugly.
this on through. We're gonna pull the thread through on this one here because the 2-minute drill is what started all this in the first place. My answer in the 2-minute drill is what sent Yinka to the court immediately to start putting up shots in the middle of the night. To get prepared because I said Myles Gorham. I just had to take Myles was a college athlete. I figured he's got the size, he's got the the pedigree to take Yinka in a one-on-one game of basketball. But, Yinka obviously feels otherwise, but it's time because Myles has yet to get to go through the gauntlet that is QB1's 2-minute drill. So, JR, you ready? You ready to take the man through it? Myles, you ready?
I mean, yeah, I'm always ready.
Okay, well, let's do this thing then. It's time for some 2-minute drill with QB1 and I guess, his wide receiver, Myles Gorham. Let's do this thing.
All right, so this is Myles' first time going through, and for our first-time listeners, all the 2-minute drill is I'm going to ask Myles a 10-question series, or a series of 10 questions, in 2 minutes. He has to say the first thing that comes to his mind, and Jason and Yinka are the referees, and they're going to judge. All right, is this fair or foul, or was he okay? Did he do it in a timely frame? So, Myles, if you're ready, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right. Are our referees ready? Yinka, Jason, y'all good?
Oh, no, yeah, we good. We good.
I'm ready.
We good.
I know we had like 4 NFL refs retire this all season, so just making sure. All right, so here we go. With fries, do you put your ketchup on the side or on the top?
On the side.
Over the next 5. All right, cool. Over the next 5 years, who would you rather have? Keenan Allen or DeAndre Hopkins?
Keenan Allen.
Oh my God.
That's my favorite receiver. That's my favorite.
Bro. Go ahead. Let him go.
Y'all already know. Like, you shouldn't ask me that question. You knew the answer. You knew what I was gonna give y'all.
Loyalty.
I like it. What did Kevin Durant text back LeBron?
That might be the text.
Can I come too?
Who lasts longer with their current team over the long haul? Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Sean McVay.
Who has better hands, Chris Carter or OBJ?
Chris Carter.
In a basketball game of horse, who wins, Jason or Yinka?
Jason.
Ooh.
In horse? In horse? In horse, bro? Okay, man. All right. That's how you really feel? All right. In a horse? Y'all so disrespectful.
Hey, Jason be on that jiu-jitsu stuff, so you never know.
Bro, it's horse.
I'll just choke you out if you get too far ahead, though.
All right. What's the best way to have your steak cooked?
Medium rare.
That a boy.
My man.
Corey Davis, John Ross, or Mike Williams? Who has the least amount of yards next year?
Mike Williams.
Who wins more games next year, the Bills or the Cardinals?
Cardinals.
Last question. This can be anything, but what would you say is the most Minnesota thing ever?
The passive aggressiveness, the OPE. I'd probably say OPE. There
it is. Time's up.
The OPE?
Yeah, you got to explain that.
I'm gonna need that.
I
need to go to the judges on this one.
OPE is like if you like run into someone or you're about to like awkwardly run into them or you're just trying to like excuse yourself around them. People oftentimes say, oh. So that's how that goes.
Like it's the most Minnesota.
Does that translate to this my bad?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Kinda, okay. Yeah, in a way.
Okay.
It's like so awkward though.
It's very awkward, bro.
Okay. OPE. All right. Learn something new.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Myles, you made it out.
With flying colors.
Good work.
Not with flying colors. No, bro. We need to hit the rewind on that on that horse game. You made it out, but we don't know what flying colors.
I'm gonna let it go and see. Look at that. Yinka was out here
There it is.
popping his gums, and internet kicked him out the pod.
Got a shot block.
Dunked
So last thing, we don't need to spend very much time on this, but y'all see them NASCAR ratings?
Ooh.
What's going on with NASCAR? Is somebody protesting in NASCAR? Why the ratings so bad for NASCAR?
Yes,
NASCAR,
protest,
who
bro.
cares?
Someone kneeled, didn't they?
Somebody must have down 30%. That's not good.
Not good at all.
That's not good. Anywho, no need to spend too much time on NASCAR. Let's keep this thing moving along. And speaking of passive aggressive, Myles, you see how we did that right there. Anyway, we'll keep this moving along. And who's doing work? JR. I'll go ahead and just put another plug in. JR put out a really great piece. Year in the life of a scout over at Inside the Pylon. You got to check that thing out if you haven't already. Yinka dropped a little something on Climbing the Pocket about the Danielle Hunter signing. Josh dropped a little something on Climbing the Pocket about Danielle Hunter. David and Drew dropped their latest episode of Good Morning Gallahorn. I happen to be on it, so I think it's pretty good. You should check that out over on the YouTube channel. Anything else that we should be looking for? Prince was on, his usual spot on the when are you going to get into the name of that show? The Andy, Luke, Arif, and Saxy Prince Football Machine. When's that going down?
I don't know. They changed their name. They changed the name completely, so it's not even football machine or the LAAFM, whatever the case is. I think it's just the Zone Coverage Podcast or whatever the case is. So, that's collectively what the name is. So we're all grouped into that.
Okay, all right. Well, Prince was on there. I guess Prince, Myles. I'm gonna say Myles ain't writing anything for a little while here. He got other stuff he needs to take care of. But Prince?
What do I got coming up?
Anything coming up?
Yeah, me and Arif were working on something, but Arif is terrible at communication, so hopefully it'll get up running soonish. So
okay. And JR, you still gonna be chopping stuff up here? How's it going with your newfound love of video production?
Yeah, man, it's going good. Got, I believe, 5 prospects up right now. Just doing some of the top guys. I know I just put up AJ Brown tonight, and I put up Drew Lock this morning. Or yesterday morning, I should say. And I'm basically doing 2 a day, Monday through Friday. So I want to end up getting to over 50 guys, and that's just something I'll be keeping up until the college season.
The real question is when all these are going to end up on the YouTube channel so people can find them easily and all that stuff. But that's a question for another podcast. We can do that. We can have that conversation some other time. I feel like we hit everything. Did we miss anything? Guys, we miss anything? Prince, Myles, JR, anything that you guys wanted to talk about before we go?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Well, I will take the silence as golden then. And y'all, it was fun to have everyone back. Listeners, thanks for sticking with us here. Myles, again, excellent work on the 2-minute warning. Yinka, good to have you back. And listeners, we will talk to you soon. Have a good one.